Part 18. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 171. Following Wu Wei's guidance, Mr. Zhou knelt down and took a look, and then he saw the clue. After so many years of ups and downs, it is extremely rare for antique furniture to have only such a few imperfections. In addition, Wu Wei's repair techniques are really good. Not only does it not destroy the original heaviness of the antique furniture, but it also gives it full life. Holding onto the chest of drawers, Mr. Zhong straightened up again. Just as he was about to speak, his daughter, Ms. Zhong, said, "This cabinet looks good. I'll put it in the room. It's very convenient for putting some clothes." "I want it, Master Xiao Wu." Before Wu Wei could respond, Mr. Zhong said first, "This is a treasure of national culture. You use it to store clothes, and you are wasting natural resources." Zhongying reasoned and argued, "What is not a treasure? First of all, it is a piece of furniture. Furniture is not used to store things, but is used as a decoration. It is offered as a treasure every day. You are a waste of natural resources." "Come on," father and daughter choked on this. Wu Wei found that no matter how much he wanted to interrupt, he couldn't. Just sit back and watch. Until Mr. Zhong looked at him as if asking for help and said, "Xiao Wu, you must not sell to a layman like her. She will ruin your good craftsmanship." Zhongying also said without giving in at all, "Master Wu, the money is all with me anyway, I can do whatever I want." I thought that this would make Wu Wei beg for mercy. As a result, Wu Wei took a step back and spread his hands. "Mr. Zhong, Ms. Zhong, I originally planned to give this chest of drawers directly to Mr. Zhong. Therefore, you can resolve your internal conflicts yourself." With that said, Wu Wei went out to call the jeep driver to come over and move the chest of drawers. "Move back home and you can figure it out slowly." The driver was a little hesitant at first. After all, the father and daughter were still arguing. After listening carefully, it turned out that the two people were arguing not about whether to take it back, but about who should get it back. So without saying anything, with Wu Wei's cooperation, he strapped the chest of drawers into the car. "Wait until the chest of drawers is tied up." Wu Wei sent the father and daughter out and said, "Mr. Zhong, I won't keep you here anymore. You go back and tear them apart slowly." When the jeep left smoking, Wu Wei felt relieved. Looking back, I heard Zishun remind me, second brother, that Ms. Zhong left the money here. When Wu Wei entered the main room and took a look, he saw that there was a lot of unity. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" When Wu Wei took the money and rushed out, where was the jeep? On the way back to the main room, I ordered some as I walked, which was a total of 600 yuan. This should be Ms. Zhong's own decision. Fortunately, there weren't many, and I didn't make much from them by doing this. But does this favor count as repayment? I can't figure it out anymore. Near noon, Xiao Yuyan came back riding a early Yukon car. When Zishun saw her coming, he immediately picked up the book and went to Xinhua bookstore to read again. This girl skillfully makes people feel distressed. As a result, Wu Wei stopped him and said, "What are you going to do? You haven't eaten yet." Then he raised the 600 yuan in his hand and said, "I'm treating you to beef noodles." Just after I came back from eating beef noodles, I saw Ka Wangjing, the owner of the meat joint factory, coming over. After not seeing each other for a while, Wang Jing became more mellow. The ups and downs of the body even seemed a bit exaggerated. Xiao Yuyan looked wary. But Wu Wei asked openly, "Are there treasury bills again? You can just make a phone call. There is no need to deliver them in person." Unexpectedly, Wang Jing glanced at Xiao Yuyan, but said with a complicated expression, "It's not about the treasury bills, it's about the factory director inviting you to dinner at the county guest house tonight." Wu Wei said in surprise, "Director Wan invited me to dinner? What does this mean? Wang Jing originally wanted to explain the reason. As a result, seeing Qiao Yuyan demonstratively holding her arm around Wu Wei, she became so angry that she didn't want to say anything anymore. The next sentence was, "I don't know." Turned around and left. This made Monk Wu Wei's hang confused. However, before he could figure out Wang Jun's intention, he heard another unfamiliar voice coming from the door of the small courtyard. "May I ask if Boss Wu is here?" De Wang rushed out in a flash. Judging from the momentum, he was obviously a stranger. Wu Wei quickly drank the rhubarb and hurried out to greet him. He saw a rich-looking middle-aged man standing at the door with a slightly bald forehead. At first glance, it is not far away from the realm of the strong. Although he couldn't recognize the person, Wu Wei still took out his cigarette and asked, "Who are you?" Upon seeing this, Wang Qind quickly took out the smoke and said, "I, Wang Qind, the director of the county construction station, have long been familiar with the name of Boss Wu." Ouch! Wu Wei immediately held the other party's hand and said, "Commander Wang is here. Please sit down in the room." Although there have been conflicts of interest between the two parties, but generally speaking, it is the county construction station that has made itself and its construction team successful. Therefore, Wu Wei not only did not reject webmaster Wang, but was actually grateful. Wang Qind was immediately flattered. He said in his heart that Boss Wu is not only a monster in terms of design and drawing skills, but he also treats people like a spring breeze. Just walking into the Bei Road courtyard, Wang Qind found that it was a bit ordinary. Too ordinary to be worthy of Boss Wu's talent and ability. When Wu Wei saw this, he smiled and explained, "Station Master Wang, this is the small courtyard I rented temporarily. It makes you laugh." Wang Qind suddenly realized, no way. Once the two small Western-style buildings of Section Chief Song and Section Chief Tang are revealed, who dares to question Boss Wu's attainments and vision in residential architecture? As they talked, the two entered the main hall. Qiao Yuyan hurriedly arranged to pour tea. After Wang Qind had a sip of tea, Wu Wei asked, "Station Master Wang, may I ask what advice you have for me since you have come to my humble home in person?" Wang Qind put down the teacup and said, "I and my construction station have long admired Boss Wu, so I would like to ask Boss Wu to come and have a meal together no matter what." Wu Wei's heart jumped and he felt even more strange. He still didn't understand Wang Jun's return. Wang Qind took the initiative to come to his house to make friends. He was even more confused. He immediately declined, saying, "Station Master Wang, you can't accept rewards without merit." Wang Qind further said, "Boss Wu, we are all in the same industry. It is human nature to have a meal together and make friends. As long as Boss Wu nods, I will arrange the follow-up matters." Wu Wei could only tell the truth, "To be honest, Station Master Wang, I am at the county guest house tonight and have an appointment with Director Wang." As a result, Wang Qind decisively said, "Then tomorrow night, still at the county guest house." After saying that, he stood up and walked out, saying, "Boss Wu, it's settled. You must come, you must come." Wu Wei chased after her and didn't stop her. When he returned to the courtyard, he heard Qiao Yuyan say, "Maybe it's because the news that you were close to Mr. Zhong at the Hao family's wedding was spread, so." Wu Wei slapped his thigh, "It must be like this. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 172. After understanding the whole story, Wu Wei was no longer confused. Leaving Zishan and Qiao Yuyan at home, he rode a 28-inch bicycle alone and went to buy a 3-burner coal stove and a 5-meter-long chimney. Since he decided to move back to the fenced courtyard during the Chinese New Year, necessary improvements must be made. Otherwise, he would just move back to the fenced courtyard from the small courtyard on Bei Road. From warm as spring, it suddenly felt like falling into an ice cellar. Not to mention Xiaochun and Zishan, Wu Wei himself couldn't stand it. What's more, he could afford this little money now. When he came back after buying the coal stove and chimney, Chiao Yuyan told him, "Just now, a section chief named Chen said he was from the cement factory and wanted to invite you to dinner." There was no one else from the cement factory except Chen Yinglong. Wu Wei nodded. One more person would not make much difference, and one less person would not make much difference. Then, without even unloading the coal stove and chimney on the car, she said directly, "Are you going back?" "I'm just going back to the fenced yard to install the stove." Chiao Yuyan said happily, "Then I'll go back with you." After that, Wu Wei left Zishun at home to watch the door. Accompanied by Chiao Yuyan, they went back to the fenced yard together. In the fenced yard, the ground that Xiaochun had just swept in the morning was again covered with chicken and duck feces by the chickens and ducks in the yard. So, it is true that raising chickens and ducks in the countryside for meat and eggs is cheap. But it is also really dirty. Wu Wei walked on tiptoe, but he couldn't avoid stepping on chicken and duck feces. Not to mention Chiao Yuyan. After setting up the car, Wu Wei picked up the broom and drove out the chickens and ducks in the yard. After raising them for so many days, the chickens and ducks sent by others also knew to recognize the door, so there was no fear of losing them after driving them out. Now, it was immediately quiet. When I opened the main hall, a dusty smell hit me. As expected, this house cannot be lived in without people and vitality. It exudes an inexplicable smell of decay. Chiao Yuyan, on the other hand, brought a basin of cold water without any disdain and started to wipe the table and the floor. It was okay to wipe the floor. How could I use cold water to wipe the table? On this day, even with the sun during the day, it was still around 0 degrees. Soon, Wu Wei lit up the 3-burner coal stove and put it in the main hall, arranging it according to the layout of the Bai Road courtyard. The fire quickly came up, and a pot of boiling water also began to steam. With hot water, Wu Wei did not stop Chiao Yuyan and let her take care of everything inside and outside. Wu Wei himself began to measure the size and install the chimney. This kind of thing is easy after doing it. In half an hour, Wu Wei was done. However, the airtightness of this fenced house is still a little worse than that of the Bai Road courtyard. But it doesn't matter, at most we can just burn more coal. Feeling the temperature in the room getting warmer and warmer, Chiao Yuyan took off her ski jacket. The situation got out of control. Fortunately, no one came to the door during this period. Chiao Yuyan felt more and more excited under the tension. In a blink of an eye, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The two of them put on their clothes and washed up, then locked the fence and went to the village office together. Arrived at the village office, Wu Wei came here to ask Xiao Ziyi to help him make another glass door and install it in the main room of the fence for temporary use. Secondly, he also planned to ask his master and Ziyi to go to the dinner party of Director Wan. After all, a good man has 3 helpers. Wu Wei went to the appointment alone, and if he was knocked down by someone, there would be no one to help him. As a result, Ziyi got embarrassed since he drank too much last time. This time, he was unwilling to go no matter what. Moreover, they frequently used the excuse that they could not handle the work in the furniture factory. So Wu Wei had to ask his master to call his senior brother He Chiang to come over, so that they could at least make up the 3 of them. Just when He Chiang arrived on his bike and the 3 of them were about to set off, Secretary Chiao hurried over from his yard and said, "The township called. Mayor Yao wants to invite you to dinner. He said it's at Su's restaurant in the township." This was said to Wu Wei and the other 2. But Master Chiao Wu and He Chiang, who were beside Wu Wei, would never misunderstand that Mayor Yao wanted to invite them to dinner. After Secretary Chiao finished speaking, he was also puzzled, and said with a spit of grit, "It's almost the new year, and Mayor Yao suddenly did this. Is he up to something bad?" Without waiting for Wu Wei to speak, Chiao Yuyan, who was standing aside, said with her head held high, "Third uncle, don't worry. There are several groups of people who invited him to dinner in the county today. We analyzed that it might be because of the fact that he had a good chat with Mr. Zhone yesterday, and it was spread again." Xiao Zishu suddenly realized, so he has become a celebrity now. Wu Wei said with embarrassment, "I don't want to, old secretary. There will be a drinking party tomorrow night and the night after, old secretary, you can help me arrange it. But as for Mayor Yao, you must accompany me." Xiao Zishu nodded, "That's no problem. Then I will arrange it." Wu Wei hurriedly passed a cigarette over, "Thank you, third uncle." Watching Wu Wei and his 3 people riding away, Xiao Zishu picked up the cigarette in his mouth, and for the first time, he felt sour in his heart. This kid, he really turns into a dragon when he encounters wind and clouds. Why can't his own daughter Jasmine understand a little and see his good points? For the first time, Xiao Zishu had the same feeling as his wife. A forced melon is not sweet, but it can quench thirst. If this boy really becomes his daughter's son-in-law, let alone in front of Mayor Yao, even in the county, it will be very impressive. What do people live for? Isn't it just to live for a face? Wu Wei and his party arrived at the county guest house. As soon as Wang Jun's name from the meat factory was mentioned, he was immediately taken to a private room. In the private room, apart from Wang Jun who had not yet arrived, Section Chiefs Song, Tang, and Chief Yu of the finance department were already there. Not only that, but there are also Wang Jing and Yu Lily from the factory flour office. Master Chiao took one look at this posture and felt secretly happy. Fortunately, he came with his apprentice, otherwise Wu Wei would definitely be knocked down by just this posture. Wu Wei entered the private room and immediately took the initiative to spread cigarettes to the 2 section chief customers. Section Chief Song dragged his fat body and tried so hard that his face turned red, and he struggled to get up to take the cigarette. On the other side, Section Chief Yu is a woman and does not smoke. Wu Wei just said hello, and then lit the pipe with Section Chief Song and Tang, 2 section chiefs. "Are you comfortable living in your new home? Are there any problems? If you have any problems, just come to me, I will be responsible to the end." Section Chief Tang said with a satisfied look on his face, "I was just about to thank Boss Wu for this. My wife is satisfied and I won't say anything else, and my children like it very much. Relatives and friends come over and praise it?" Wu Wei nodded. Chief Tang changed the subject and said, "But Lao Song is a bit miserable." When he said this, Section Chief Tang had a meaningful smile. Wu Wei didn't understand. Until Section Chief Tang lowered his voice and said, "I heard that old Song's wife was very happy and squeezed him even harder." Wu Wei took a quick look and saw that no, Section Chief Song's dark circles were much heavier than before. Elder Song K blushed, and the dark circles under his eyes became more prominent. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 173. In the private room. The old men here laughed mysteriously. Unexpectedly, Section Chief Yu next to him said with disdain, "Who in the meat factory doesn't know about this? It deserves to be kept a secret from you." Wu Wei smiled and said, "Chief Yu, we are mainly concerned about the 2 factory flours, and we must pay attention to the impact." Then the conversation changed, 2 section chiefs, when you move to your new home, don't forget to call me when you invite guests for drinks. I have to give you some gifts to express my feelings. Section Chief Song took over the conversation and said, "Easy to say, easy to say." At this moment, Wang Jun's hearty voice appeared at the door and said, "As soon as I heard how busy this private room was, I knew that Master Xiao Wu had arrived." Wu Wei turned around to greet him, and while holding Wang Jun in his arms, He pursed his lips and said, "Director Wan, you suddenly made such a big show, I'm really flattered." Wan Jun said nothing, but took the opportunity to joke, "You saw the two factory girls chasing after you, did you feel panic?" Everyone laughed. Mr. Chiao's face felt a little unnatural, but he couldn't say anything in this situation. Especially Wu Wei's current momentum is really unstoppable. It is perfectly normal to have more women around you. After Wang Jun made a joke, he didn't give Wu Wei a chance to ask further questions and greeted him to take a seat. He felt that Wu Wei was pretending to be confused, pretending to understand. So I simply didn't say anything. Then when he gave up his seat, he kept asking Wu Wei to take his seat. Naturally, it was impossible for Wu Wei to be so trustworthy. Relying on his own strength, he pulled Wang Jun to sit in the main seat. As soon as Wang Jun sat down, Wu Wei sat down next to Wang Jun. Then his right hand was occupied by Wang Jing with quick eyes and hands. In fact, even if Wang Jing didn't grab it, Yu Lily wouldn't be able to grab it. After all, tens of thousands of soldiers were on the scene. Everyone took their seats. Soon, the food and wine were served. Wang Jun picked up his wine glass and said, "Today's drinking party is mainly to thank Master Xiao Wu and his construction team for building such a good factory for our meat joint factory and successfully starting the transformation and upgrading of our meat joint factory the first shot. Now that our ham sausage production line can be put into production smoothly, and the ham sausage products of the meat joint factory can open up, it is all related to Master Xiao Wu's good start." Wu Wei suddenly realized that he had borrowed this name. After 3 drinks, Wu Wei asked, "Director Wan, how does the ham sausage from our meat factory taste? I'm planning to buy a few boxes to try during the Chinese New Year." Wang Jun pointed at Wu Wei and said to several section chiefs, "Listen, Master Wu is very good at doing things." Section Chief Song took the opportunity and said, "Director Wan has already expected it and brought a box here specially. In a short while, there will be several dishes that use our ham sausage. Master Wu is well informed and can taste it." At this moment, Wang Jing took a deep breath, held the cup with both hands and said, "It will take a while to taste the ham. Boss Wu, I offer you 2 cups. Thank you for helping our factory so much with the treasury bonds. The employees are busy." "Oh, I found this from the beginning." Wu Wei was too embarrassed to refute. "I could only keep my head down and hum Wang Jing twice." After taking 2 cups, Wu Wei gave her another 2 cups in return. Wang Jing's beautiful eyes were full of joy after drinking. Section Chief Song directly shouted, "Drink the cup, drink the cup." Wu Wei frowned, with an expression like the old man on the subway looking at his phone.jpg. Section Chief Song is so vulgar. No wonder I have to be juiced by Sister Zhang every day. The key is that when she looked back at Wang Jing, not only did she not object, but her eyes were so watery that they were almost dripping with water. In desperation, after drinking 2 small glasses of wine with Wang Jing, Yu Lily brought the cup over again. Wu Wei didn't even let him breathe. The key to this battle was that Master Chiao Wei and senior brother He Chiang were unable to help at all. After he finished drinking with Yu Lily, Wu Wei turned around and grasped the main contradiction, Wang Jun. As a result, Section Chief Song and Tang came forward to take over. Fortunately, Master and senior brother also noticed it, and immediately followed Wu Wei's lead and continued to toast Wang Jun. Wu Wei was able to breathe for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he saw Wang Jing hugging his arm at some point and rubbing him in his arms. It seems that this factory flower is really drunk. Wu Wei tried to pull out, but couldn't pull back. Instead, it looked like he was thrusting back and forth on purpose. Fortunately, no matter how difficult the drinking game is, it will eventually end. The drink lasted until 9 o'clock, and it was finally over. When leaving, Wang Jun pulled Wu Wei and kept talking about friendship, as if the two had a deep friendship. But Wu Wei also used the power of wine to say what Wang Jun wanted to hear. Director Wang, we have had a great time cooperating on the meat factory project. As for other details, I have long forgotten. I only know that it was Director Wang who overcame all the objections and gave me and my construction engineering team the opportunity to show off our talents. It is also thanks to your recommendation, Director Wang, that I have the welfare housing project of the cement factory. Wang Jun listened and felt greatly in his heart. The sincere energy gushed out, even making him feel ashamed. But it's just a trace, and it's fleeting. After all, for a coder at his level, this kind of emotion does not exist at all. But with these words, Wang Jun's purpose of going to the wine shop was achieved, and he got on the car and went back with satisfaction. Although section chiefs Tang and Song did not say much, Wu Wei understood from their expressions that what he said from the bottom of his heart today was right. Finally, there is section chief Yu. The old hands in finance showed no extra emotions in their eyes except appreciation for Wu Wei. Wang Jing and Yu Lily, on the other hand, had a straight look in their eyes and a slightly pursed red lips. They wished Wu Wei would get drunk immediately so that they could take him back to do it. They sent the people from the meat processing factory away. Wu Wei turned around and looked at He Jiang and said, "Big brother, are you okay? I'll leave the old master to you." He Jiang nodded. Master Chiao Wu said unhappily, "Take care of yourself." Wu Wei immediately raised his head and said with his chest puffed out, "Master, I'm fine. If I don't pretend, I'm afraid the two factory girls will be in trouble under the pressure of Director Wang." Master Chiao Wu finally showed some relief and said, "You are a little thoughtful. They are obviously coming for you." Wu Wei said without changing his expression, "Anyway, I will only marry Yuyan, Master, you know that." He Jiang said even more bluntly, "If it were you, why call me Master, just call me Dad." Master Chiao Wu turned his head and glared. Wu Wei laughed and said, "It seems that you have experience in this matter, senior brother. I will have to learn from you in the future." Chiao Wei interrupted, "Can you go back there by yourself?" Wu Wei said proudly, "No problem at all, don't worry, Master, senior brother." After that, he quickly added, "By the way, tomorrow night is Station Master Wang of the County Construction Station, and the night after is Section Chief Chen of the cement factory. I think Director Pei will also come. I have to trouble Master and Senior Brother to support me. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 174. After separating from his master and senior brother, Wu Wei returned directly to the Bai Road courtyard. "I thought I would be able to sleep after I got home and took a shower, but I didn't find out until I arrived. It was late at night, and there were guests at home." Seeing Xiang Hui bringing his parents and a table full of gifts from the Eight Immortals, Wu Wei's drunken head was a bit hard to turn around. "Third brother-in-law, what are you doing?" When Xiaochun heard this in front of outsiders, she even called her brother-in-law, and knew that her second brother had really drunk too much. He quickly reached out to help Wu Wei and reminded him in his ear, "It's Xiang Hui's parents who came here specially to give him gifts. They probably heard about your relationship with Mr. Zhong." After the reminder, Xiaochun did not forget to complain to Xiang Hui, "Second brother has been socializing a lot these days. You should say hello before you come." Xiang Hui laughed along with him, but party secretary Xiang and Aunt Zhang behind him looked a little unhappy. After all, if my own son is manipulated by his future daughter-in-law, who can have a good face? Fortunately, after this interruption, Wu Wei's drunkenness was suppressed and his spirit became much clearer. He immediately took out his cigarette and scattered it, and followed Xiaochun's words and said, "Old party secretary, Aunt, don't blame my sister for speaking out. Isn't she afraid that I will treat you too lightly? It's true that I don't know what's going on these past few days. The wine bureaus are coming one after another. It's not enough if I don't go. The burly secretary Xiong took Hua's eye and said, it's a good thing to have a lot of entertainment. It's true that we both came unexpectedly. But the mood is the same, it's just for the future of the two children. Master Wu, what do you think? Wu Wei looked at Secretary Xiong and then at Xiong Hui. He was indeed his biological son. Not only do they have similar faces, but they also have similar body shapes. While looking at it, he held out the lighter and handed it to the other party to light it, then lit it for himself and said, yes, yes, Secretary Xiong, you are right. But so many gifts are really costing you money. I have already told Xiong Hui about this. I treat him as one of my own, so I tell him from the bottom of my heart. There is really no need to give so many gifts. Secretary Xiong waved his hand and said, the etiquette cannot be discarded, Master Wu. Wu Wei nodded, I didn't say she was going to be abolished. This is mainly because third sister's age is here. She will have to stay with her parents for at least 2 or 3 years. It would be unfair to Xiong Hui to start giving her away now. This suddenly hit the point. Aunt Zhang glanced at her husband, her eyes full of urging and pressure. At the same time, Xiaochun also prepared the honey water for hangover, brought it over, handed it to Wu Wei, and sat down next to her second brother. Secretary Xiong just twitched his teeth and asked, Master Wu, you also know that Murakami has many solutions when it comes to age. Is it too long to stay for 2 or 3 years? Wu Wei smiled and said, so, I ask Xiong Hui not to give gifts so early. Before he finished speaking, Party Secretary Xiong interrupted, it's not a matter of whether to give gifts or not. The two children are in love with each other and have fallen in love with each other. Naturally, it is better to decide on the marriage as soon as possible. You can delay it for 2 or 3 years, it's a little hard for me to understand. In fact, this was Xiaochun's own plan. It wasn't because Wu Wei kept his third sister at home to help him. So just when Xiaochun was about to speak, Wu Wei was the first to say, Secretary Xiong, times have changed, and people's concepts have also changed. As the old saying goes, if love lasts for a long time, it will not last forever. My third sister and Xiong Hui are now in their prime, 18 or 19 years old. It's a good time to make achievements. Especially my third sister, the number of female workers under her now has grown to about 10. With the establishment of a furniture factory in our village in the next year, the number of female workers may increase even more. This matter was developed under Xiong Hui's own eyes. I am not just making random nonsense. At this point, Xiong Hui also interjected, what the second brother said is absolutely true. As a result, she received a glare from Aunt Zhang. My heart says, this kid is helping you find a wife, why don't you know which side you're on? Secretary Xiong said happily, it's a good thing that Xiaochun has the ability in this area. It just so happens that I also have a packaging factory here, so there is room for her to use it. As for career, as long as she wants to do it, we will be the old ones and support her with both hands. But if she gets engaged and gets married, there is no need to delay. Wu Wei laughed, my enemy, the old party secretary. I kept her at home just to let her practice in the furniture factory, so as not to marry her and mess up your packaging factory. Both parties laughed. Although it was a little awkward, the atmosphere was still harmonious. Especially since the advantage lies with Wu Wei, no matter how strong Xiong and party secretary Xiong are, they cannot force each other too much. What's more, his son is still being manipulated by his future daughter-in-law. They both couldn't put in the effort. So when party secretary Xiong saw that Wu Wei didn't give in, he took a step back, at least our two families agree on their affairs. From this point of view, it means that our trip is not in vain. Then party secretary Xiong took the initiative and said, Master Wu, look. When you have time, our two families will sit down and have a meal. We won't talk about anything specific, just have a simple meal for them. Wu Wei's face turned serious. Secretary Xiang, I should have arranged this meal today. It was my negligence. But now it's Little New Year in a blink of an eye. I have a full schedule before Little New Year, and I really can't keep up with the entertainment. After Little New Year is over and before the New Year's Eve, I will make arrangements for it, okay? Upon hearing this, Party Secretary Xiang stood up to leave, and Aunt Zhang stood up beside him. When Wu Wei saw this, he immediately picked up the gift on the 8 Immortals table and took double orders as a return gift. The old couple walked in front, but Wu Wei couldn't catch up. But Xiang Huizui was behind him and was caught by him. There are no elders in this family, so I have to be very careful in dealing with people. Don't let people go out and talk about it. The Wu family doesn't understand etiquette. After sending away Xiang Hui's family of 3, Wu Wei was able to take a breath. Zishun put an apple on the briquette stove and handed it to him to chew. It was a fruit plate to relieve hangover. As a result, when Wu Wei took a bite, the apple was not cold anymore, but he covered it too much, and all the sourness was stimulated. When I took a bite, my mouth was full of sour water. After a while, Xiaochun came back after seeing off Xiang Hui. As soon as he entered the door, he said to Wu Wei, "Second brother, I told him." Xiang Hui said that he supports my idea. But Wu Wei asked with concern, "You didn't do it in front of Party Secretary Xiang and Auntie, did you?" "That's not the case." Xiaochun shook his head and said, "Even if it's in front of you, what does it matter?" Wu Wei said sincerely, "Xiang Huiran is pretty good. Don't always let his parents think you are strong. It's not good for you." In the end, Xiaochun came to his senses and said, "Second brother, if they hadn't heard about your connections in the county, how could they have given you gifts in such a hurry? Actually, in their eyes, you are the stronger one. What does it matter if I say something harsh?" Zishun echoed, "That's right. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 175. In her previous life, Xiaochun couldn't wait to marry into the Xiang family because of Qin Ziru's jumping up and down. There is no shortage of grievances in all aspects. In this matter, Wu Wei, as the second brother, is also responsible. Now that she is happy to stay at her parents' house and work in a furniture factory, Wu Wei naturally lets her do whatever she wants. Just be her strongest supporter. Moreover, the two sisters had said so, and Wu Wei directly let her make the decision herself. Xiang Hui will discuss it and see which day is suitable and where to treat the guests during the new year. The only thing is, don't be afraid of spending money. I got it. Xiaochun went to get a basin and a towel and said, "Hurry up and go to bed. It's been a tiring day." When I woke up, the sky was bright. Wu Wei was woken up again by the crackling explosion in the alley. After washing up, have a simple breakfast. He left Zishun at home and went back to the fence courtyard. The heating problem of the fenced yard has been solved, but the piles of old bricks and tiles all over the yard are not the same thing. If you want to move back for the new year, you have to pack it out. As a result, after riding back to Daowen village, Wu Wei noticed someone standing in front of his house from a distance. When I got closer, I saw that there was no one else but Jiao Yuyan. "You came so early? Are you freezing?" Wu Wei felt distressed and regretted getting up late today. As a result, Jiao Yuyan just snorted coldly, turned her head to the side, and let him open the gate of the fence yard, but did not enter. Until Wu Wei pushed the 28-meter pole into the courtyard and picked him up by the waist. Jiao Yuyan exclaimed in surprise, punched Wu Wei's chest with her small fist and said, "I asked you to have a drink with someone else." Wu Wei was also unjustly accused. "It's not just a joke, master knows it too." Jiao Yuyan didn't care about anything else and ordered, "It's just this one time, it won't be the same next time." However, Wu Wei refused, "That won't work. On our wedding day, I have to drink with you." Qiao Yuyan was retorted, but it was impeccable. Just a touch of red rose to his cheeks, he turned his face to one side and said, "Who promised to marry you?" In the main room, the fire in the briquette stove has been extinguished. Wu Wei carried the person into the main room and put his hand down. "Free your hands and start the briquette stove first." Qiao Yuyan couldn't help, so she picked up the shovel and shoveled out the chicken and duck droppings in the yard. After a while, the briquette stove ignited and the hall slowly became warm. Wu Wei stewed a pot of tea and let the steam bubble out. He took out the jasmine flowers that had been in the cabinet for who knows how long and was about to brew it. Qiao Yuyan came back from her work. When she saw the jasmine flowers, she quickly stopped them and said, "It's been too long. I'll go back and get fresh ones for you." Wu Wei said indifferently, "There is no need to pay so much attention, just make a few more brews and it will be fine." Qiao Yuyan insisted, "That won't work either." After saying that, he pushed the con car and slid out of the fenced yard. Wu Wei had no choice but to take a sip of water, put on his work gloves, and went to the middle of the yard to get busy. First, all the loopholes in the fence were pulled out, then lime was spread along the traces of the fence, and then the foundation was dug to a depth of 1 finger. As a temporary courtyard wall, it does not need to be plastered with mud or plaster, and this depth is enough. Even so, Wu Wei was still exhausted from digging a nearly 40-meter-long courtyard wall foundation pit. With this time, Qiao Yuyan took back the tea leaves, brewed the tea, and cooled it to the right temperature. Qiao Yuyan handed the teacup to Wu Wei, and wiped his sweat along the way. "Didn't you say that we will overthrow and rebuild after the year? Isn't it in vain that you are spending this time now?" Wu Wei pointed to a yard of old bricks and tiles in Wuanjiang and said, "The main purpose is to put these old bricks on top and free up the yard. Otherwise, during the Chinese New Year, the yard will be in such a mess." "What a mess!" Qiao Yuyan immediately said, "Then I'll go back and ask Dad to come over and help you. He's idle anyway." "Farewell." Wu Wei quickly stopped him and said, "I'm not rushing the work anyway. I'll tidy it up slowly. It took me 2 or 3 days to finish it. Why bother this old man to ruin our world between the two of us?" Qiao Yuyan felt happy when she heard that Wu Wei still knew the tone of their world. The man he fell in love with was indeed both rough and fine. Even so, 5th Master Qiao didn't come. However, after lunch, his apprentice Ma Heidao came over. Wu Wei's circle of courtyard walls has just built up the corners, and extends out layer by layer along the lime line. Seeing this, he raised his head and wiped his sweat and said, "Why are you here?" Ma Heidao loaded up his shiny new car and said, "Dad saw you busy when he passed by, so he asked me to come over." Hearing this tone, some bosses seemed unhappy. "Just in time, you go down along my lime line and I'll see how well you learn." "Oh," Ma Heidao responded angrily and started to work. After working for a while, Wu Wei took a look. "Technically I have mastered the essentials, but my proficiency is still lacking. It often doesn't fit in place and needs to be adjusted. So much so that the speed cannot be increased. Even so, with one more person to help, the speed is still much faster." By late afternoon, more than half of the old bricks in the yard had been consumed. The entire courtyard wall has been connected into one piece and is nearly half as tall as a person. It wasn't until Mr. Qiao Wu and He Qiang came over on bicycles that Wu Wei stopped to wash up, change clothes, and prepare to go to Station Master Wang's appointment. When Master Qiao Wu saw the half-built courtyard wall, he avoided his eldest disciple He Qiang and complained to Wu Wei alone, "Why didn't you let Yuyan go back and call me? With me here, the courtyard wall will be built today." Wu Wei smiled and explained, "Isn't it relying on this section of the courtyard wall that I can help Heidao? It sounds reasonable, but Master Qiao Wu knows what he is doing." Then he heard Qiao Yuyan repeatedly admonishing, "Dad, Don't let him drink with other women again. He Jiang, who came in, heard this and couldn't help laughing out loud. Master Chiao Wu also regretted it a little and told his daughter about it. He waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, don't keep talking about it." As a result, at the dinner tonight, Station Master Wang brought all the men. Not to mention the women who can drink with each other, there is not even a woman. Compared to the last arrival of Wang Jun, Wang Qin had brought people to wait early. When he saw Wu Wei and Xiao Wei and the other two people entering the room, he was even more flattering and extremely polite. After all, he had a little selfish motive for this evening's drinking party, and wanted to cooperate with Wu Wei. If you don't ask for help, you are usually taller, but if you ask for help, you will be 3 points shorter. There is nothing he can do about it. After 3 rounds of drinking, when he heard Wang Qin's tone, Xiao Wei immediately felt like he was facing a great enemy. This is to grab food from his own bowl. On the other hand, his apprentice Wu Wei kept smiling and did not object. Xiao Wei was surprised, but he didn't say anything at the drinking party. It was not until after the party that he asked Wu Wei privately, "You are not really going to cooperate with those guys with trendy craftsmanship at the county construction station, are you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 176. Looking at Wang Qin and others going away, Wu Wei smiled slightly, handed a cigarette to Xiao Wei and He Jiang respectively, and said, "Master, senior brother, cooperation makes money, it's a win-win situation, why oppose it? But we have our own construction team, and the project is going well, why should we cooperate with this idiot?" This is the contempt chain in Xiao Wei's heart. He Jiang heard some hidden meaning and said, "Dad, junior brother, the key is win-win, am I right?" Wu Wei nodded, "Master, senior brother is right. We can take on projects that we can do, so I will naturally not drag the construction station down. But you have to admit that the construction station has this name, and many times it is more legitimate than us to get projects and engineering. In this case, we can talk about cooperation and there is a possibility of a win-win situation." Xiao Wei immediately understood, "Why didn't you say it earlier? I've been worried until now and haven't eaten enough." Wu Wei immediately said, "Then let's eat some later, I'll treat you." Xiao Wei and his eyes glared, "Why waste that money? It's just a bowl of noodles at home." No words were spoken all night. With the experience of yesterday, Wu Wei woke up early on the morning of the 22nd day of the 12th lunar month and had breakfast. He went back to the fenced courtyard with Xiao Chun. When he returned to the fenced courtyard, Xiao Yuyan was still there. Not only did he come, but he also climbed over the wall into the yard and did all of Xiao Chun's work in advance. He let go of the chicken coop and swept the yard. Xiao Chun saw that she was fine, so she said hello to Xiao Yuyan and turned around and went straight to the village office. Wu Wei unlocked the door of the main room. The heat in the main room had long gone, but fortunately there was still a little bit of charcoal left in the coal stove. He quickly changed the coal balls and opened the valve. After a while, the fire in the stove became strong again, and the room became warmer. Wu Wei reached out and took 2 keys from the keychain and handed them over, saying, "From tomorrow on, you can't get in. These are the keys to the main door and the main hall. When you come, just open the door and come in, and treat it as your own home." Xiao Yuyan happily took the keys and said proudly, "This is my home." Wu Wei smiled and said, "This home is shabby and no one cares about it." "You are enough," Xiao Yuyan said proudly, "besides, a shabby home is worth a lot of money. I will live a beautiful life with you." Just then, Xiao Wei rode a bicycle, followed by Ma Heidao. Now there is one more person, and they directly opened up from both sides and surrounded the middle. In less than half a day, the courtyard wall was built. Although there was no mud and mortar, it was still no problem to support it for 2 or 3 months. When it comes to rebuilding in the spring, it will be much easier to tear down and pick up the old bricks. After finishing all this, Wu Wei was preparing to kill a chicken and cook a meal to entertain his master and eldest disciple. As a result, Master Chiao Wu waved his hand and said, "Don't eat at your house. Your master's wife has prepared it at home. Haidao will go with you." Wu Wei was still a little hesitant, and was directly held by Chiao Yuyan's arm and forced out of the door. The group rushed to Master Chiao Wu's house. Chen Yuejuan really made 6 dishes and a soup. It seemed that she had prepared it in advance. Wu Wei thought that there were still some things to clean up in the afternoon, so he didn't drink with his master. Ma Haidao was a newcomer and was only busy with rice. He didn't eat until Chen Yuejuan put it in his bowl. After lunch, Wu Wei took Ma Haidao directly to the village office and found Master Si. When Master Si saw him coming, he pointed to a pair of door frames next to him and said, "Here, I made it for you a long time ago." Wu Wei touched the door frame and took a glance to know that the size was about the same. Except for the 2 empty door frames with glass, there was an old door with the surface just polished next to it. "Fourth Master, what is this?" Fourth Master Chiao continued smoking and said, "I heard that your room doesn't even have a door. I found an old door for you. The size should be about the same. You can take it back and install it. It's better to have it than not." Wu Wei laughed, "It's rare that Fourth Master thinks of me." Then, Wu Wei found a flatbed truck, and together with Ma Haidao, he installed the 3 doors and pulled them back to the fenced yard. It was installed in no time. The double door frame of the main room fit perfectly, and Wu Wei was not surprised at all. Even the door in the east wing was installed, and it was about the same. Then the master and apprentice pulled the flatbed truck and went to the county town to cut glass. By the way, they robbed a bag of cement and a bag of sand from Boss Cheng. Boss Cheng didn't even mention the money for these things. He just pulled Wu Wei to eat and drink together. Wu Wei had been drinking so much these days that he couldn't keep up. He had no choice but to ask Boss Cheng to talk about his relationship with him like a brother. "We are brothers, do we still need to use that trick?" Boss Cheng insisted. After all, Boss Wu's name has been well known in the county these days. He has heard it many times from different people. Finally, Wu Wei finally got out of it. When he got home, he immediately installed the glass. Then he mixed cement and sand to whitewash the slag inside and outside the main room. It doesn't matter how solid it is, at least it has to have a new look for the new year. In the end, all the unused sand and ash were applied to the seams of the built courtyard walls, houses, and gates. When Chiao Wei and He Chiang came in the evening, it felt brand new and in good shape. The evening drinking party was still held at the county guest house. Today, Section Chief Chen Yinglong of the cement factory hosted the dinner, and Wu Wei expected that Deputy Director Pei would show up. But when he arrived, he found that not only Deputy Director Pei was there, but also the top leader Director Zhou. Wu Wei was surprised and a little flattered. At the same time, he suddenly realized that it was no wonder that the cement factory had to arrange this dinner. It turned out that it was the instruction of the top leader. Director Zhou shook Wu Wei's hand and said, "Boss Wu, I actually wanted to meet you, a young and promising talent, a long time ago. But I have been too busy with work, and I trust Mr. Pei to do things, so I have delayed it until now." Well, he is indeed the top leader. With a few words, he brought both of them along. Not only did he explain the reason, but he also won over Director Pei. The art of language really made him play to the extreme. Wu Wei still had a respectful attitude. No, Director Zhou, I have always wanted to visit you, and now I finally have the opportunity to see you. Today's dinner must be hosted by me." Without waiting for the other party to object, Wu Wei turned around and solemnly introduced his master Qiao Wei and his senior brother He Qiang. Today's dinner was 3-3. Equally matched, a bit like evenly matched. The actual result was roughly the same. As they toasted and exchanged cups, the two sides deepened their understanding and became more confident about the welfare housing project after the new year. The guests and hosts had a happy meal, and there was no trace of deliberate solicitation. This is the best high-end dinner. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 177. Bai Road Courtyard. Seeing her second brother coming back drunk again, Xiaochun couldn't help but sigh in her heart while she was busy. Half a year ago, the second brother was still so unknown and a transparent person in the village. Now he can call friends in the county and socialize constantly. In contrast, Zishun felt that this was what the head of a family should be like. Wu Wei took the honey water and sat down. I saw the two sisters simply pack some luggage and piled it behind the door of the main room. Among them, Zishun even brought many new books. He couldn't help but smile and said, "Are you finally willing to buy a book?" Zishun pouted and said, "When I return to the village, it will be inconvenient if I want to come to Xinhua bookstore to read some books." Wu Wei nodded, "It's time to buy something, our family doesn't lack the money." Then Xiaochun brought over a peeled apple and said, "I have made an agreement with Xiang Hui about having dinner with the Xiang family. It will be in the fence yard and we will cook it at home." Wu Wei raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Isn't this too slow to wait? After all, they are your future parents-in-law. The implication is that it's not like our family can't afford it." Xiaochun had his own considerations and said, "You have been drinking constantly these days. I am really afraid that you will drink yourself down, so I discussed with Xiang Hui and make it at home. Then eat more vegetables and drink less. That's it. Otherwise, my third sister would love someone." When Zishun heard this, he agreed quite a bit. After all, this way, she could have a delicious meal. Even if the guarantee is not complete, you can still put it on the table for dinner. Wu Wei had no choice but to agree, "Okay, let's buy some good food then, at least it must be decent." Early the next morning, it was the 23rd of the 12th lunar month. After Wu Wei had breakfast, he went to Mrs. Zhao's house next door and hung up the phone in the village. Asked the old branch secretary to inform Ma Jinbao to bring 2 flatbed trucks to help move the goods. After making the call, Mrs. Zhao turned her head to the side angrily. Wu Wei smiled, "Isn't this just to make room for Qiao Qiao? After all, Qiao Qiao will be back tomorrow, and you don't want Qiao Qiao to have a place to stay, right?" Mrs. Zhao's face softened slightly and she turned around, "She can live with me." Wu Wei asked back, "I can live here, but have you considered Qiao Qiao? What do you think?" The small courtyard next door was rented specifically for her. After leaving for a few months, when I came back, there would be no place for her. Mrs. Zhao was startled, and then she still had some energy to say, "You have a point." Wu Wei knew that it was almost done, and said in a gentle tone, "Don't worry, I will move back with my 2 sisters. It's not like I'm going to say goodbye to this place, but I'm coming here. If you have any delicious food or drink, I will still cook it for you." Mrs. Zhao pouted her lips like a child, "Who cares? It's enough for me to have Qiao Qiao." Half an hour later, Ma Jinbao arrived pulling 2 flatbed trucks. As for the driver of the other flatbed truck, he did not find anyone else and directly pulled his son Ma Haidao's strong man. "In just a few months of stay, I have accumulated a lot of luggage." The 2 flatbed trucks were packed to the brim. "Fortunately, there is nothing valuable, so I am not afraid of bumping or touching anything along the way." Zishun rode on his Kun chariot and followed his second brother Wu Wei back to the fence courtyard first. "As soon as I saw the walls of my fenced yard erected, I immediately felt a sense of security. In the main room, Xiao Yuyan, who had come earlier, had already turned on the stove and brought the temperature up. Through the glass door, I watched the master pulling the donkey cart delivering briquettes, and then delivering coal to the kitchen. As soon as Zishan entered the house, she couldn't wait to take off her ski shirt, picked up the book, warmed herself by the fire, and entered the world of the book. Xiao Yuyan was busy fetching water for Wu Wei to wash his face and wipe his hands. By the way, when I saw that the briquettes at home were gone, I asked someone to bring 1,000 kilograms over. 1,000 kilograms of briquettes costs about 400 yuan. Considering the need for cooking and heating, it will not be a problem after the spring thaws. After Wu Wei wiped his face, he hung up the towel and said, "Then I'll give you the money." Xiao Yuyan insisted, "I have money." Wu Wei smiled and said, "Aren't you going to have an affair with me? Isn't my money your money?" Hearing these words, Zishan felt his teeth sore. No wonder teacher Qiao was pursued by so many people in school and remained indifferent. He was pinched by his second brother. It turns out that the second brother can not only talk, but also do things. What woman wouldn't like this? Seeing Xiao Yuyan's submissive look, Wu Wei took her to his room and told her where to put the change. Then he took her hand and came out and said, "In 2 days, third sister's partner will come over for dinner. Then you can come over and help." Xiao Yuyan thought, "It's okay to help, but is it appropriate for me to show up?" Wu Wei blurted out, "What's inappropriate about this? You are the future mistress of this family. You are both talented and beautiful. If you hold up the scene, you will definitely give face to our elder Wu." Seeing this, Zishan also assisted and said, "Teacher Qiao, just come. The third sister's future parents-in-law are both factory owners, so they have a lot of temperament. You are the only one in this family who can compete with them. Otherwise, this girl didn't read in vain." Xiao Yuyan no longer had any doubts. "Okay, I will definitely come." More than half an hour later, Mr. Ma Jinbao and his wife arrived, each pulling a flatbed truck. Wu Wei didn't need to say hello, the two men helped unload it. Naturally, Wu Wei was not idle either. He put the 20-inch color TV set next to the altar table in the main room, and suddenly he felt full of wealth. After unloading the goods, Ma Jinbao and his father were about to leave. Wu Wei hurried out and stuffed 2 packs of yuanmei into each of them, and also took 5 yuan. In the end, the father and the mother did not take the money, and after a long shove, they finally accepted the cigarettes. Zishan was too busy reading. Putting down the book, he first put the sisters' luggage and bedding into the west wing, and laid out what needed to be laid. The fence courtyard, which had been silent for many days, finally regained its vitality. It was almost noon when the cleaning was completed. Xiao Yuyan put the pot of noodles on the 3-burner coal stove, beat a few eggs, cut the bacon from home, and fried some green garlic. It was quite delicious. But after lunch, Zishan frowned and said, "Second brother, did we forget something and didn't bring it back? I always feel like something is missing." Wu Wei looked outside the courtyard and indeed felt that something was missing. All the chickens and ducks in the house ran out, and the yard was unusually quiet. Just then, Xiao Yuyan said, "Did you forget to bring De Huang back?" The brother and sister suddenly realized and said in unison, "No wonder, no wonder." Wu Wei immediately stood up and said, "You two stay at home, I'll be back soon." Xiao Yuyan did not forget to remind him, "Come back early, you still have to go to the village with your third uncle to have dinner with Mayor Yao in the evening." "Got it." Wu Wei said this, and he turned outside the yard with his car. Zishan said seriously, "I told you, this family can't do without you. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 178. When Wu Wei returned to the Bai Road courtyard, De Wang was still lying shivering in his kennel. "Because when we moved away, the fire here slowly went out." Rhubarb had no place to warm himself by the fire, so he could only retreat into his kennel. Wu Wei walked over and touched the dog's head. De Wang just looked at him with a frown, then buried the dog's head in its fur and continued to perch. Turned around inside and out. Wu Wei was sure that when Qiao came back early tomorrow morning, he would still be able to check in with his bags. Then he went out to the small courtyard next door. I picked up the phone and called the girls' dormitory of the University of Finance and Economics, but I couldn't find Yang Qiao. Looking back, I heard Mrs. Zhao report the shift and time. When Wu Wei heard about this shift, he felt relieved. This was the train he took back to the city many times, and he was very familiar with the specific time. After knowing what was going on, Wu Wei roared away again. He took De Wang with him and let him stand alone in the back seat, all the way to the Baiguan Bridge and out of the county. When there were fewer cars on the road, I put it down and walked for a while. After walking for 2 miles, the old dog finally realized the benefits of sitting on the back seat of a large 28-inch truck. Returned to the fence yard. As soon as De Wang got off the bus, he marked frantically at the door. After marking, he turned back and rushed into the courtyard, rushed into the main room, rubbed Zishun's trouser legs, and lay down on the spot. Ouch, I'm so tired. In the evening, Wu Wei arrived at Qiao's courtyard early. Qiao Yuyan came back with her. When Secretary Qiao saw his outfit, he smiled and said, "Is this Yuyan's handiwork?" Immediately, without waiting for Wu Wei to respond, he concluded decisively, "So here, you need to have a daughter-in-law who knows both cold and hot." Wu Wei nodded without changing his expression. Qiao Yuyan was so embarrassed that she pushed the car back to her yard first. Only then did Wu Wei have the opportunity to hand over a flower and asked, "Old party secretary, do you think I should bring anything tonight?" Secretary Qiao took Huazi, waved his hand and said, "What to bring? No need to bring it. Yao Amen probably wants to make some fuss about your brick kiln factory, but with me here, he can't." Wu Wei made up his mind, "It's all up to my third uncle to make the decision today." With the change in address, Secretary Qiao immediately smiled knowingly, "Hey, that's right. I've always treated you as my own child, don't worry." Then he waved his hand and said, "Go ahead. I'll call you when I leave." Wu Wei lit the fire for Qiao's issue, and then lit it for himself. Then he pushed the cart into Master Qiao Wui's house. As soon as you enter the courtyard, a strong smell of bean juice hits your face. Looking again, Qiao Yuyan was taking out a bowl of white and tender bean juice from the kitchen and said, "Come and have a drink. Mom is making tofu. I asked you to catch up." Wu Wei was eager to try, "Then I will have to eat tofu now for a while." Then he saw Master Qiao coming out of the hall. Wu Wei turned to greet him and handed him a cigarette. "I heard Master Qiao ask, you guys came back from moving today, didn't you check the date?" "I really didn't see this." Wu Wei had no choice but to change his concept and said, "Master, this is not called moving. It's not that particular." Fifth Master Qiao was not too harsh and asked instead, "You have social activities every day these days. Are you tired?" Wu Wei nodded. "After today's meal, we can entertain Xiao-chun at her partner's house another day, and we will be able to live together until the end of the year." Speaking of this matter, Wu Wei asked, "By the way, Master, one day Xiao-chun's future parents-in-law will come over to the house, and there is no equal elder in the family. Can you and the master wife?" As a result, before Wu Wei finished speaking, Fifth Master Qiao understood what he meant and interrupted directly, "For this matter, it would be most appropriate for you to call the third brother and his wife over. I heard that the Xiong family is also the village party secretary, with such status it's equal to others. This year, we have guests at home. To show their respect, they often invite respectable people, or people of equal status, to accompany them." When Master Qiao said this, he had obviously already thought about this for Wu Wei. Even if Wu Wei didn't ask, he would still take the initiative to remind him. On the other side, Xiao Yuyan put down the bean juice, directly scooped 2 spoons of sugar into it, and stirred. Then he couldn't wait to say, "Dad, please let him come over to drink bean juice, and stop nagging him." Wu Wei immediately called Master Qiao and said, "Master, can we have a drink together?" Qiao Wei waved his hand, "I don't like drinking that stuff." Wu Wei then remembered that in his previous life, whenever his wife made tofu, he would not drink the soy juice, but would only eat the tofu brain. Taking the bowl of bean juice from Xiao Yuyan, Wu Wei held it in his hand and drank it. The result is sweet after 1 sip. "How much sugar did you add?" "What, if I add too little, it's still bitter." "No," Wu Wei waved his hand quickly, "it's okay." Xiao Yuyan put down the spoon that scooped out sugar and continued to pound peanuts and chop coriander. This is obviously prepared for tofu now. Wu Wei took a few sips before he remembered and asked, "Where is the third brother?" "He hasn't come back yet." Chen Yuejuan came out with another bowl of bean juice and said, "He won't come back until dark." These days, running around in the county town is like an addiction. Every day when he comes back, he has to talk to his fourth uncle. "I went to do the accounting and didn't come back until very late." Fifth Master Qiao interrupted, "It's rare for a child to take the right path, so don't complain so much." Chen Yuejuan glanced at the old man, put down the bowl of bean juice in her hand and said, "Xiao Wu, after you finish drinking, you still have this." Xiao Yuyan took the lead and said, "Mom, he wants to drink tofu pudding, a bowl of bean juice is enough." While talking, Lu Hong came over to smell the aroma. Chen Yuejuan said immediately, "Third sister-in-law, it's just right, I just served it for you." Lu Hong turned around and saw Wu Wei drinking it, and immediately asked curiously, "Little Wu also likes to drink it?" Wu Wei nodded. Before she finished, Xiao Yuyan proudly said, "He loves to drink it?" As a result, Lu Hong's next sentence made Xiao Yuyan regret it a little, "He has the same taste as me, we are like a family." After a bowl of bean juice, Wu Wei ate another bowl of tofu pudding. Bean juice is sweet, but tofu pudding is salty. Although it is not enough to fill you up, it can fill you up. When they were still not satisfied, Secretary Jiao came over with a cart, and Accountant Li, who was wearing an old Zhongshan suit, was with him. He looked more like an old cotter than the old secretary. Wu Wei gave them a cigarette, then said goodbye to his master and his wife, Yuyan and Lu Hong, and left the Jiao family compound together. On the way, Wu Wei mentioned the matter of inviting the old branch secretary to his home to accompany the guests. Branch Secretary Jiao said happily, "No problem. We have dealt with Lao Xiong before, and we are quite familiar with each other." Then he asked about the process of Xiaochun and the boy from the Xiong family getting to know each other, and said, "Your sister Xiaochun is quite lucky." Then he changed the subject and said, "But now, your two families are equal in status. And your future achievements will only be higher than those of the Xiong family." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 179. There were 3 people in the group, chatting while riding. Soon we arrived at Sue's restaurant in the countryside. These days, eating and drinking in government agencies and institutions has become a popular trend, which has created a large number of private restaurants. Even so, being able to open a 2-story restaurant in the countryside and keep it running for several years still requires some skills and background. When Secretary Jiao arrived, Su Lauer, the owner of Suji restaurant, personally greeted him. "Secretary Jiao, Accountant Li, welcome, warm welcome." Su Lauer was wearing a dirty white apron, his fat hands were greasy, and his words were even more greasy. From his exchanges with Party Secretary Jiao and Accountant Li, it can be seen that Su Lao'er is quite familiar with the people in the village. After the greetings, Su Lao'er stretched out his hand to Wu Wei alone and said, "Is this the legendary boss Wu?" Wu Wei felt the greasiness on the other party's fat hands and said with a smile, "Boss Su, nice to meet you." "It's more than just a pleasure to meet you," Su Lao'er immediately said, "when Boss Wu comes, it's like a brilliance. I've heard of Boss Wu for a long time, but I didn't expect that when I met today, he would be so young and handsome. Do you have a partner?" At this point, Secretary Jiao decisively interrupted, "Su Lao'er, this matter is not your daughter's turn." Su Lao'er was not annoyed at all, and even took the words without changing his expression. "Yes, I forgot that Secretary Jiao also has a precious daughter waiting to be taken care of." Secretary Jiao was too lazy to talk to him and asked, "Is Mayor Yao here?" "No," Su Lao'er led a few people inside. When they arrived at the stairs, they went straight up the stairs and said, "But the private room has been prepared for a long time. You guys can go in and sit down for a while." While talking, Su Lao'er led the three people into the box, then turned and went downstairs to do some work. Wu Wei gave Party Secretary Jiao and Accountant Li another cigarette. "I heard Party Secretary Jiao mention it, no matter how fancy Mayor Yao says it, don't agree to it. The village couldn't even build a wheel kill, but suddenly a 54-door wheel kill came out, and they actually wanted to take advantage of the east wind." Wu Wei scratched his head. "At the beginning, I really wanted to get it right in one step, preparing for the price breakthrough in 1988 and the shortage of materials. It really ignores the local and all-round impact. Fortunately, he pulled up the big tree of the Jiao family early in the morning and tied the three elders of the Jiao family tightly to his chariot. Now facing the pressure from the countryside, he is not afraid at all." However, when he said this in a hurry, Secretary Jiao couldn't help but asked, "Xiao Wu, I have almost arranged the manpower for the kill for you. When the kill is opened next year, a round of firing will be completed. Production capacity will be ramped up soon. On your side, besides using bricks for the project, are there any other sales channels? Don't let all the red bricks that are fired lie in the factory and sleep. They will not produce any economic benefits and will be called a local joke later." Regarding this, Wu Wei was not worried at all and said, "Don't worry, old party secretary, red bricks are hard currency. As long as they are burned, there is no need to worry about not being able to sell them." After hearing this, Secretary Jiao could only stop and say, "It's a good thing that you have confidence. Let's go back to the village and work together to find a solution. After all, you have solved so many idle labor in the village." At this moment, footsteps were heard outside. And it's not just one or two people. Upon seeing this, Secretary Jiao stood up quickly, opened the door to welcome him out, and saw three people filing up the stairs. The leader was still the oily Su Lao'er, followed by the mayor Yao Amen and the commune accountant Shi Jinsheng. As soon as the two sides met, it was inevitable to exchange pleasantries. In the end, Wu Wei was singled out and introduced and recommended. Wu Wei always maintained a respectful look. At least Yao Amen subconsciously turned his attention to Secretary Jiao. Soon, the food and wine were served. 8 cold dishes, together with 2 bottles of Bailun local Deque. The accountants of both parties naturally took over the bottle and became the wine commander. As soon as everyone's wine glasses were filled, the first hot dish, shredded eel fried with green onions, was served. Yao Amen picked up the wine cup and said, "Old Jiao, Xiao Wu, let's get started." Everyone raised their cups to drink together, and drank 6 cups together first. Only then did the duel begin. As a result, Yao Amen drank 8 cups with Secretary Jiao alone, but was unable to break open the gap between him and open up the situation. He was already unhappy, so much so that when Accountant Li paid respect to him, he was a little absent-minded. Wu Wei looked at his nose with his eyes and his heart with his nose. If he had wine, he would drink; if there was no wine, he would eat vegetables. Try to keep your persona as small and transparent as possible. It wasn't until Yao Amen came towards him with a cup in hand that he stood up to fight. Xiao Wu, Boss Wu, at such a young age, he can open this 54-door kill, which fills a big gap in our township. It's true that his ambition is not as good as his age. Wu Wei lowered the rim of the wine cup, touched it lightly and said, "Hey, Mayor Yao, that's all superficial. Actually, I also believed other people's lies, saying that the bigger the brick kill, the lower the cost of red bricks, and that's why I fell into this trap. You also know that if you want to build a project now, you will often not get the money, and you will just get the IOU instead of spending it as money. I really had no choice, so I focused on building materials. I thought I could increase revenue and reduce expenditure, so I could make some progress. But after listening to what the old party secretary said, I realized the seriousness of the problem." Yao Amen was confused and said, "What's the problem? Why is it serious?" Wu Wei sighed and said, "If the extra red bricks fired in my kill cannot be sold, the cost will not be reduced at all, so how can we talk about increasing revenue and reducing expenditure?" Yao Amen was not fooled. "I heard that you and Mr. Zhong in the county are close friends. When the time comes, ask him to come forward and say a word, and sell some red bricks. Isn't it a matter of hand?" Wu Wei stroked his face in shame and said, "Don't mention it, Mayor Yao, a red brick is only 1 cent of profit, how can I ask Mr. Zhong for it?" Yao Amen was also asked, so he didn't even know what the wine tasted like. Wu Wei drank it all in one gulp, and then continued, "When the time comes, I will have to trouble Mayor Yao to help shout in the whole township to help our brick kill factory sell some goods, at least I can pay the workers a salary or something." After exaggerating, Yao Amen suddenly felt that this brick kill, no matter how big it was like a chicken rib. He responded half-heartedly for a few times, and looked at the full table of dishes, and lost his appetite. Secretary Chiao saw this and secretly praised Wu Wei's performance. Refusing is not the smartest thing. The smartest thing is to make the other party unable to even ask for something. Good guy, this guy has this skill, it's really a waste of worrying about him. So the following dinner was a bit of pretense. After eating and drinking, Yao Amen even let accountant Shi sign the IOU and then left. Su Lauer chased out the door with the IOU. "Village Chief Yao, didn't we agree to pay in cash today?" Yao Amen ignored him and got in the car and left. Accountant Shi was left behind and said, "Old Su, the village chief is not feeling well today, don't blame me for not reminding you. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 180. After leaving Su's restaurant, Secretary Chiao was in a particularly happy mood. On the other hand, Accountant Li was still a little worried and said, "Old Chiao, Mayor Yao is not a master who is willing to give up." Secretary Chiao glanced at Wu Wei, who was pedaling next to him, and said in a relaxed tone, "If I continue to push it away like I did at the beginning, Yao Amen definitely won't let it go. But after being complained about by Xiao Wu, Yao Amen may have to reconsider." "Consider it? Even if I don't give up, I'm afraid it will have to wait until half a year." Accountant Li had some realization and turned to look at Wu Wei. "They say young people are young and energetic. If you have some skills, it's easy to get fooled. I didn't expect that this guy, who was also young and had such a big career, could put down his posture and complain about misery. This is probably why Yao Amen fell into his trap so easily." The three of them returned to Daowen village all the way. Since the entertainment ended early, the village headquarters was still brightly lit. Wu Weishun led him by and went in to take a look. Not only did Xiaochun lead a group of women soldiers to work enthusiastically, but the eldest girl and the younger daughter-in-law were almost one-to-one, and the number reached more than a dozen. Moreover, Chiao Kuliang and the fourth master were talking to each other about the orders that came in today. Seeing Wu Wei's arrival, Chiao Kuliang didn't speak yet. Fourth master Chiao couldn't wait to say, "You're here just in time. The orders from Kuliang are worth 100,000. It's enough for us to start work here until July or August next year." Wu Wei glanced at Chiao Kuliang with an encouraging look. Obviously, after this period of experience, Chiao Kuliang has become much calmer. Turning around, he said to fourth master Chiao, "In that case, let's hire people quickly, fourth master. Don't let our valued customers wait until July or August." Fourth master Chiao agreed very simply and said, "Okay, I will start organizing tomorrow." After speaking, Chiao Kuliang followed Wu Wei out. When we started talking again, it was no longer about furniture orders. During this period, I called Li Manman several times, but she always treated me. How should I put it? You can't catch what's out of reach. Sometimes it's far away, and sometimes it feels very close. Wu Wei smiled, "Third brother, you are right to feel this way. The gap between you two is just so big. In this case, either you work hard, improve yourself, and try to narrow the gap between you and her. Or, you just give up and choose a girl who eats commercial food in our county to get married." At least in Wu Wei's opinion, as long as Chiao Kuliang can maintain his current work momentum, it shouldn't be difficult to find a girl who eats commercial food to get married. Unexpectedly, Chiao Kuliang pondered for a moment, then nodded heavily and said, "You're right, I have to work harder." Wu Wei couldn't help but touch his forehead, saying it in vain. When this person is too persistent, he can only hear what he wants to hear. It doesn't matter what your focus is. After walking out of the village headquarters, Chiao Kuliang raised his hand and said, "I heard that the second team, Jiang's family, was showing a movie at Shaolin Temple today. Why don't you go and see it?" Wu Wei shook his head, pushed into the car and said, "It's so cold, let's forget it." Then he parted ways with Chiao Kuliang and went directly back to the fence courtyard. There is no fence in the fenced yard. From the outside, it finally looks a bit decent. When Wu Wei slid into the yard on his car, he was quite surprised. The main room was brightly lit, and Zishan was not the only one at home. Of course, it's not surprising that Jiao Yuyan also has this point. What's strange is that Dai Yujin, the eldest son of the Dai family in the east, and his younger sister Dai Yumei, and Xiao Wei, the little kid from the Xiao family in the west, are all there. 3.5-year-old children were sitting on the small bench with their legs upright. Let them sit so honestly. Of course, it's not just because of Jiao Yuyan's contribution as a teacher. Not to mention the temptation of a 20-inch color TV. Wu Wei entered the door, and several children called him honestly. Wu Wei thought it was funny, so he mentioned it. "Today the second team's Zhang family showed the movie Shaolin Temple, didn't you go to see it?" Dai Yujin is 8 years old and the oldest. His answer was very representative, "The TV is great." After hearing this, Chiao Yuyan raised her eyebrows at Wu Wei with a proud look on her face. Then he remembered what he had eaten tonight, so he pulled Wu Wei into the east chamber, closed the door and asked, "How was the meal? I heard from Dad that Mayor Yao has no good intentions." Wu Wei sat on the stool, pulled the person into his arms, sat down and said, "It's okay, I'll handle it for the time being." Chiao Yuyan sat on his lap peacefully. After all, we already have a more intimate relationship, and this kind of contact will only increase the sense of intimacy. It wasn't until Wu Wei started to move his hands up and down that he felt helpless and said, "There are a room full of children outside." Of course Wu Wei didn't want to do anything to Chiao Yuyan on the spot. Even so, Chiao Yuyan was still a little embarrassed and said, "I heard from Zishan that Xiaochan will prepare honey water for you every time. I will make it for you." Wu Wei then let go of his arms and heard a sound coming from outside the yard. It seemed that the aunt next door was calling Dai Yujin's nickname. Follow Xiao Yuyan out the door. I saw Zishun had opened the glass door and walked out of the main room. Aunt Dai, Yujin is watching TV. Come in and sit down. Zishun stayed in the warm spring-like hall all day long, wearing very little. As a result, the acting aunt was too polite and didn't even want to come in through the door. It wasn't until Wu Wei went out that he let people in. Aunt Dai entered the yard, looked at the old brick walls and said, "It's much brighter now." Xiu-chun and Zishun are alone at home. As an elder brother, you can feel more at ease. Wu Wei nodded and said, "These are only temporary. When spring comes next year, I plan to postpone the reconstruction." Aunt Dai clapped her hands and said, "Oh, that's great." Her warm energy sounded like she was really happy for you. In fact, that was how she spoke. Crossed the courtyard and entered the main room. Aunt Dai didn't notice the glass door and subconsciously stepped in. It wasn't until Wu Wei stretched out his hand to pull the door open that he realized what was going on and exclaimed, "It turns out there is a door here. I'm so dim-sighted that I really didn't see it." After saying that, he laughed first. Then the voice of Xiao's sister-in-law Chen-Ying also came from the door. The two of them stopped where they were, and waited until Chen-Ying appeared at the door. Then Auntie greeted her earnestly, "De Yingzi, come in quickly and take a look. See how high-end Xiao Wu has made the house." When Chen-Ying saw that her aunt was there, she walked in curiously. After all, as soon as the courtyard wall is erected, people can't help but become curious about the situation inside. He quickly walked to the door of the hall, met his aunt, and said with a bright face, "You really look high class." Then through the glass door, I saw the large color TV set next to the altar table, and I immediately exclaimed, "Such a big TV? And it's a color TV. Aunt Dai, this is the most advanced." Aunt Dai also clapped her hands and sighed, "No wonder Yujin and Yumei are reluctant to go home. They are tied to the big color TV. Xiao Wu, don't you get a lot of money for this big color TV?"